in the aftermath of that nearly 12-hour hostage standoff inside a North Texas synagogue. The suspect was killed. All of the hostages were freed by an elite rescue team. Authorities say the suspect, identified as British national Malik Faisal Akram, interrupted a Shabbat service at Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. And the FBI is working closely with counterterrorism agents in the UK, where law enforcement has arrested 2 of the suspect's teenage children. But as Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas points out on Twitter, for Congregation Beth Israel and the Jewish community, the immediate crisis is over, yet the fear of rising anti-Semitism remains. So for more on that, I want to bring in the CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt. Jonathan, we do appreciate you taking the time being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, the most recent ADL study on anti-Semitism in the U.S. found 2,100 acts of assault, vandalism, and harassment in 2021. That is an increase of 12% over the previous year. This individual directly targeted the Jewish community and on the Sabbath. It's clear that this is a growing trend around the world, really, but around the country. So this is a loaded question. Why?
Well, anti-Semitism has been described as the oldest hatred. It's kind of like this perennial virus that mutates and metastasizes, adapting to different environments and conditions. Jews have always been an easy scapegoat, a marginalized community that is frequently targeted. And in this moment, this Jewish community in America that has lived so well for so long, benefiting from the freedoms of our country, is feeling more besieged than ever. We have extremists on the far right and the far left who regularly deride Jews, accuse them of being a part of conspiracies, whether it's related to COVID-19, accusing Jews of spreading the disease, or whether it's political conspiracies like Jews are controlling the government, or even conspiracies that you've probably heard about, Jews controlling the media. It goes on and on and on. And so, to be very frank, while we were shocked and saddened by the attack, we weren't surprised, because Jews are the most frequently targeted religious minority in this country when it comes to faith-based hate crimes. And yet we're almost 60% of the total, and yet Jews are just 2% of the overall population. And we've seen a range of extremist-related acts of violence, from assaults in broad daylight last May, triggered by the fighting in Gaza, to Pittsburgh, to Poway, to Muncie, to Jersey City, and now, unfortunately, Colleyville, Texas, joins that pantheon.
And specifically in Colleyville, we learned that the rabbi actually initiated this daring escape by throwing a chair at the gunman, allowing himself and the other hostages to escape. He credits hostage training by the FBI for that move. So what does it say about our society today and the state of anti-Semitic attacks that faith leaders need to take security training?
Yes, I think, the ADL is the oldest anti-hate organization in the country. We've been fighting these issues literally for over 100 years, but we've never seen a moment like this. And indeed, Rabbi Charlie talked about this, the fact that he'd been trained, like so many members of the clergy and other communal leaders, in active shooter drills, in hostage crises, in how to deal with terror scenarios unfolding in your synagogue. But it's actually not a surprise. We had a radical Islamist shoot and kill someone at the Jewish Federation in Seattle in 2006. We had a white supremacist attack a JCC and kill 3 people in the parking lot in 2014 in Kansas City. We, of course, had issues like I mentioned, Pittsburgh and the others in more recent years. So we are in an environment where, whether you run a synagogue or a JCC or a day school or a summer camp, you need to take action and be vigilant because of the very real threat of violence. And so I'm angry today. I'm alarmed today. We want the government to get the special envoy for global anti-Semitism passed. That's caught up in Congress. We've asked for more money for grants to make sure that these Jewish institutions, and by the way, other religious institutions, are adequately protected by DHS money. We can't get that through Congress. There's a lot of lip service paid to this issue, but we need our public officials to take action to demonstrate once and for all that they really stand behind the Jewish community.
I want to quickly get to your book. I see it there behind you. It is called "It Could Happen Here: Why America is Tipping from Hate to the Unthinkable and How We Can Stop It." Looking at the rise in anti-Semitism the past few years, you write about former President Trump specifically. You say, quote, "Extremists took advantage of the political cover Trump offered them, not just to commit acts of violence, but to enter the political discourse, further normalizing hate." You go on to say, when a political leader, especially one with the tremendous reach and influence of President Trump, not only fails to condemn hate, but actively encourages it, the entire tone of our nation's discourse shifts. So how do leaders, including but certainly not limited to the former president, encourage this kind of hate? Why is it happening so frequently now?
Well, I think it's fair to observe that our society seems more polarized than ever. And everything has become a partisan fight, from, education board, school board meetings, to election procedures, to masking, precautions and things of the sort. And yes, we've actually seen anti-Semitism been not just politicized, but weaponized. And I'll say this by both sides. So yeah, I write in my book about the environment that President Trump helped to create by welcoming white supremacists into the political discourse. And look no further to January 6th. We had people with anti-Semitic slogans marauding through the Capitol building. And in his words, quote, "We love you." And of course, he says it was a peaceful event. It was nothing of the sort. But then I'll point out on the far left, we had a leader who was one of the women who was in charge of running the Women's March, who in a speech just 2 months ago described, quote unquote, polite Zionists as the enemies of Muslim people, called the ADL an enemy, and said to beware of Zionist synagogues. And that's the kind of conspiratorial thinking that led this man to do what he did. So we've got to be able to recognize extremism. Neither side of the political spectrum is exempt from intolerance. And extremism in any form, whether it's directed against the Jewish people or the Jewish state or any other minority, should be unacceptable in our public conversation today.
Anti-Defamation League President Jonathan Greenblatt, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.